Now, finally, for the seventh mode of the C melodic minor scale, this is something of a special case. We need to examine the arpeggio first of all, so let's do that. We've got B, D, F, and A. Okay, so this is obviously a B minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, which would suggest that the mode works over a B minor 7 flat 5 chord. However, we already have two modes for the minor 7 flat 5 chord which work well. One is Locrian, which is the 7th degree of the major scale, and the other is Locrian natural 9, which is the 6th degree of the melodic minor scale. Therefore, we can reinterpret this 7th mode of the melodic minor scale by saying its second and third notes are going to be a flat 9 and a sharp 9 respectively. We'll then treat its 4th degree as a major third. We can do this because the 4th degree of this scale is actually a diminished fourth. It's one smaller than a perfect fourth, which is effectively the same interval as a major third. It sounds the same. We can therefore get the chord, in this particular case it would be B7 flat 5 from this mode. We call this mode the altered scale, or sometimes the super Locrian, and it's used over what we call altered dominant chords. In other words, dominant chords with a flat 9, a sharp 9, or flat 13. So now that we can understand where these 7 chords and their associated modes come from, we're in a position to be able to apply them in practice. Now, as I talked about in the previous lesson about the major scale modes, in my experience the most common problem to hinder guitar players in their understanding of the modes is the misconception that the mode you hear is dictated by the scale shape you play, or rather the note of the scale on which you start. The reason for this is that many guitarists practice outside of a group setting and they don't have any accompaniment. They have no chords going on behind them when they're playing solos. So therefore, when they play a particular scale, like one of these box shapes of C melodic minor that we just played at the beginning, and they started around a particular note, say E flat, they then hear every note of the scale in relation to the E flat. So let me show you what that sounds like. This is C melodic minor starting on E flat. Okay, so you can hear there E flat effectively becomes the root. When there's no chord behind the scale, our ear builds up an impression of all the notes around E flat, and we hear the chord E flat major 7 sharp 5. That's like the arpeggio or the chord we could build from that 3rd degree. However, as soon as accompaniment is introduced, this whole situation can change completely. And let's use a practical situation to explain it, similar to the one we used in the previous lesson on the major modes. Again, let's say we have two guitarists. If the first guitarist is playing notes only from C melodic minor, but over one octave, say from E flat to E flat, in a situation where he's not accompanied, like we just heard, this gives the illusion of E flat Lydian augmented or Lydian sharp 5, which is the 3rd mode of the melodic minor scale, the mode based around that E flat. However, when we introduce a second guitarist, whose job it is to accompany the soloing guitarist with chords from the key of C melodic minor, the mode that we hear from guitarist 1's single notes is now controlled completely by the chord the guitarist 2 chooses to accompany him with. For example, if guitarist 1 plays the notes of the C melodic minor scale in any order and guitarist 2 plays C minor major 7 chord behind this soloing, the mode we're going to hear is going to be associated with the 1 chord, and this is going to be the C minor major mode. So our ears hear all the single notes of the soloist in relation to the foundation provided by the chord player, regardless of what order the note's in or where the solo line starts or finishes in the scale. To put it to look at another example, if guitarist 1 was to play the notes of the C melodic minor scale and guitarist 2 was to play, I don't know, say F7, an F7 chord behind that soloist, the mode we hear would be associated with the 4 chord of the key, because that's what F7 is, the 4 chord of C melodic minor, and this would be F Lydian flat 7. So our ears would hear all the single notes in relation to the foundation provided by the chord, regardless of where the soloist starts or finishes, or what order he plays the notes in. This is going to be also the case with every other mode. In any key, it's always the chord that dictates the mode we hear. So we could apply this to any of the 4 remaining chords in the key of C melodic minor, or 5 remaining chords rather. So we can define the situation by saying the mode you hear is determined by the harmonic environment in which a particular scale is played. In other words, the chord play behind the scale determines the mode that is heard by the listener. So at this point, it's now that we understand something about the modes of the melodic minor and how to apply them, it's probably good to point out that initially for us in jazz improvisation, not all the modes of the melodic minor are going to be of equal importance. Probably the most important ones to begin with are going to be mode 1, which is the minor major mode, mode number 4, which is Lydian flat 7, and mode number 7, which is the altered scale or super Locrian. In jazz, we generally obey the following rules when it comes to which modes work over which chord types. For a dominant 7th chord resolving down a perfect 5th to a minor 7th chord, we would generally use the altered scale. That would be, for example, let's say C7 altered resolving to an F minor 7. So that's C7 going to F minor 7. So on this C7 we're going to play the C altered scale, which is coming from D flat melodic minor. So let's look at another example now. We could say for a dominant 7th chord resolving down a semitone, we're going to use the Lydian flat 7 mode, and that's going to happen in every case with that particular harmonic setup. Let's put these now in a practical kind of example situation, so we can look at some examples that aren't necessarily from the key of C melodic minor. So on a B minor major 7 chord, we generally play the B minor major mode. Now the B minor major mode is the first mode in the key of B melodic minor. Therefore, to achieve this mode, we play the notes of B melodic minor over a B minor major 7 chord. Another example would be, let's say, on an F7 resolving to a E major 7 chord. Now, and that's an example of the Lydian flat 7 mode. So F7 would be here, and we'd be resolving to E major 7. Okay, so over the F7 we'd use Lydian F Lydian flat 7. Now Lydian flat 7 is the 4th mode in the key of C melodic minor. So we're playing the notes of the C melodic minor scale over an F7 chord to achieve that mode, resolving to an E major 7 chord over which we play E Ionian.